So today we're going to revisit our little file sharing exercise. But first, I'm going to do this and then share a file from a new drive. Remember how we did in Windows? We created a partition, or we added a hard drive, and then we went into Windows, disk management, we initialized the drive, and we created a partition. Well, it's a little different in Linux, and by doing it, you learn lots of things about Linux. Some of them are still pretty mysterious. So let's fire up just going to worry about the CentOS machine right now. Going to fire that up under VMware Workstation. I did this on a machine running off the server for practice, and now I'm going to do it on this machine. And I'm going to go to my Windows machine, my Oracle machine. There it is, my Oracle Linux 9, which I had suspended. So I'm going to play it. It's restoring its state. And I'm going to try again, eventually to putty into it. But I've got a large enough window here that I'm happy. Let's see if I can enlarge that without problems. I'll grab that edge right there. There, it does enlarge. Okay, so I am on my machine. And I can tell that I'm root. How do I know that I'm root right now? What's the sign that I'm a dangerous person right now on my machine? The pound sign in your prompt. If I hit Control D or type log out, it logs me back out to being a regular user. The only reason I got the pound sign is because I'm going to be doing a lot of things as root, and I don't want to keep putting sudo in front of everything. And another thing is, if I don't have privileges as jsmart09 to do sudo, it'll complain. Let's see if I do sudo ls. Anytime I put sudo in front of something, it thinks, oh, you want to do something very important. I need to elevate you to root first. So I type in the password, if I can remember it. And it does the ls. Now, I didn't have to do sudo ls. So it's as though I temporarily became root, did an ls, but it'll even let you do a sudo even on commands where you don't need to be root. If you want to be root all the time, you can do su. That means make me root, and then I need the password for root, which in my system I've made the password the same. So this is as though you logged in as root, and now you can do anything without putting sudo in front of it.
I don't suppose you want to tell us that password?
Well, it's a password you set on your system.
Oh, so I tried that and it didn't. On the CentOS machine?
Yeah.
Really?
Whatever administrator root password you gave it when you did the install would be the password you need.
Really?
So I would not know that password.
That's strange. So it would be my login for my putty, what I put in when I go in. When I say login, it says Caniglio, I want the putty.
No.
Oh, it's not that.
If you're Caniglio, you can just do sudo. Oh, here's something. Let me show you this. If you don't know root's password, you don't have to say su. You can just say sudo su. Make me root. And then you can give your Caniglio password.
Okay.
If you can do a sudo, you can do an su. But if you don't know root's password, you can do this. Now that you're root, you can say PISSWD and then root, just to make sure that root has a password that you remember. So I'm going to just do that on mine. PISSWD for the user root, which is a very powerful user. I can decide to give that user a new password. And it will warn you telling you it's a bad password, but then if you insist on it, you can type it again, and it'll let you have that password. This is essentially just a warning. Are you that's saying, wait a minute, are you sure? You type it again though, and it gives you that password. So you can give it a non-secure password. You'll get this message, but just type it again, and it's, oh, okay, I'll give you that password. So even though it gave you that warning, it's not canceling the change to the password. all these things, the best way to learn them is just go through them, practice doing them, and as you work with systems, you'll get better and better at the commands. At the very start, there are just so many commands, hard to remember, and just going through little exercises is how I learned it. Now now that I'm sudo, I'm root. Remember, if you have the pound sign, you can do lots of things like update the password of a user that can't do sudo. But here's what we want to do. We want to, now that we're in the system, we want to add a hard drive, have our system recognize that new hard drive, and then initialize the hard drive and create a partition on it, create a place to share files from, and then update Samba to give us a practice on all that Samba stuff we did that we're probably a little fuzzy yet because that's all kind of new. So first thing I'm going to do is go to my player, modify my system, and give it a new hard drive. Underneath add. Remember, I can add hard drives as it's powered on. We call that hot installing a drive. I haven't shut it down. It warns me that I can only add certain other kinds of drives while it's powered down, so they're grayed out. See how that NVMe and IDE are grayed out? I click next, and I'm going to create a new virtual disk. Do the standard size and standard things to split it. And here's where I get to decide where to put that disk that I'm just creating. Let's go back. How big is it? 20 gig. So let's see, let's make it an odd size just so I can tell this is the one I'm creating. I'm going to make it just a 7 gig drive. And let's see, where is that? It's going to create a file for use as a spare drive, but it's not clear where exactly it's creating that file. I want to give the name that it has already, and I'm going to add a dash 7 gig to its name. But I'd like to know, where does VMware plan to keep this? I'm going to browse, and I discover that it's wanting to keep that file over here in the downloads folder for some crazy reason. You'd think it would default to where my VM is. So now I'm going to browse to where my VM is. I have it over here under AT Manning. Where are they? Oh, in the volume, AT Manning, they're there. Over here in my VMware VMs, and I want to put it in my Oracle Linux folder. I don't know why it's not thinking to keep it there initially, but the browse takes me over to the default, or the last place I browsed to apparently. So that's where I want to keep it. Now this is just good practice to keep my my virtual disk in the same location as where my VM is. But remember, this virtual disk can be mounted, can be used by any virtual machine that VMware has created for me. They're virtual disks, and I can just as well, once I've created this, it could be used by any system. Now they may not be able to use it, just like you plug any hard drive into any computer, they may not be able to read it depending on what computer that was in before. So I am creating a file with a .vmdk. I'm adding the 7 gig to it just for my own keeping track that was a 7 gig size file, and I click save. Oh, yeah, vmdk is the only choice I have for the type of file. So I click save, and now it's showing me the location of that disk, and I click finish. And now if I click on that hard drive, 7 gig, it will show me its path. This path is over there in the Oracle Linux. This path is also there in my Oracle Linux 9.4. And now I click OK. So right now, my system now has a new hard drive, size 7 gig. Now the question is, how is my system, my Linux system, going to detect that drive? I click OK, and I hope it doesn't crash.
Or we can restart it now.
Oh, no, we don't need to restart. You could restart to scan your disk, but we want to see, can we, without rebooting, see that new drive? And this is where then, coming into your toolkit of commands, And this is where you could go to the internet and look for Linux scan for new disks, because you're not going to remember everything. I know by heart some commands like fdisk -L. I know that fdisk shows me what disks it sees in the system. And if you want to know what fdisk is, you can do man fdisk, and it tells you manipulate disk partition table. This is what Linux help looks like. It gets very scary looking, and this is why many people run away from Linux, because it's not quite as friendly as Windows in explaining things. You have man pages to read through, and look at lots and lots of pages in that man page, and I hit Q to end the man page. I've just learned over experience that fdisk is a very powerful program, and fdisk -L lists for me what partitions the system sees. Well, let's see here. The partitions that it sees is some disk called dev NVMe011, 32 gigs large. It has 2 partitions on it, I see here. And I see the star. I'm thinking that must be the boot partition, and then this is my existing system. And another way to see my disk is to type df. That shows me the file systems currently in use on my system. So df is very powerful, shows me what disks are and what the disk space is available. And I don't know why df is taking so long to answer me right now. It usually responds immediately. And what I'm hoping to see is that df will show that dev NVMe0N1 is the disk that is currently the root disk on my machine. And I'm getting a little uptight about this machine. Why is df... Oh, host is down? What? This is making me think that perhaps adding... Oh, finally it comes back. And here I see that dev... See the root, the slash partition? That indeed is on that partition mapper OL root. The boot partition, I see NVMe 0N1P1, and up there in the devices, it shows that there's a dev NVMe 01N1P1 is the boot disk. It is not showing N1P2 though.
Does dev mean device?
Dev, just do an ls-l of /dev. Dev is a super important folder in Linux. This is where all your system devices are listed. Remember, under Linux, everything is a file. And these are special files. They call them device files. So everything on our system, if it's a device that I can connect to, it will show up somewhere here in typically the /dev folder. Devices show up in the dev folder. And if you have a printer connected, you may see printers. If you have temporary terminals, that's what all these TTYs are for. They are devices. When someone logs in, they are using a login device. Don't worry about memorizing all that, but just know that dev SD, let's see what we have over here, dev SD, or actually NVMe 0N1P1, are special devices in the system. Now, what did fdisk show us? Let's run fdisk -L again. Fdisk -L. Oops, had the quote in there. Fdisk -L. It shows me that there is a dev NVMe 01P1 with Linux partitions on there. It sees a dev SDA as a 7 gig drive. Does that look familiar to you? It appears that my system, did it see it before? I don't know if it saw that before when the last time I did an fdisk. Oh, it did see that last time.
Now I found it.
It does now see a 7 gig dev SDA. Now, when I was doing this on my PC, practicing this, the dev SDA was not showing up after I had added it to my system. Let's add another drive just for fun, and let's see if it shows up again. So this was a 7 gig. I'm going to go through the adding another drive, manage, virtual settings. I'm going to add another drive. This time I'm going to make it a hard disk that's 8 gig large. I'll put 8 there. And I'm also going to make sure it's stored in the same place as, yeah, it looks like it remembers the last place it was browsing to. And I'm going to store that as, I'm going to dash 8 gig in its file name and save. And finish. And now there's a 7 gig and a 8 gig. Now let's click OK. And let's see, I didn't get the flash on the screen. Let's do an F disk again. The 7 gig drive, or the 8 gig drive, is not showing up this time. And let's do a DF and just see if that somehow triggered the scanning of it. I hadn't noticed this before. I'm wondering if when I add a new drive, when I do a DF, that tells my system, or the system somehow is triggered that, hey, I see something new there. You asked me to show properties of disk. I'm wondering now if the system right now is scanning that new drive, and I'm wondering if that's the reason that the DF is so slow to respond at this point. We'll give it some time, and if it does show another device, let's see here. Let's see, it looks getting closer here. Let's do a DF, should give its results in any second now. I'm not sure. Oh, you know what's going on here? I believe that it's remembering a device that I mounted before, and it's trying to remember that connection. I think that's why I'm getting this host is down thing. I'm going to disconnect from that by doing a umount mnt win public rw. See if it lets me unmount that. I'm thinking that's why I'm getting that goofy host is down message, and I'm going to do a umount mnt win public read only. And now my problem is I need to convince my system that there is an SDB out there. I should be seeing a 8 gig drive. Notice I'm not seeing an 8 gig drive. Let's do a DF again. Or sorry, not DF, F disk minus L. It is still not showing my 8 gig drive. It did for the first one. It did see the 7 gig one right away. But now I've got a problem. It's not seeing the 8 gig drive that I just added virtually. And this is where I go online and I learned some mystery scripts. Something that is hard to explain. I have the explanation for it, but it's kind of confusing. I'm going to search for on the search bar. I could go to ChatGPT, or I could just search for Linux scan for new drive. I know that I could always reboot my system, and I know I'm pretty confident it will see my new drive. Let's see what suggestions we have for detecting a new hard drive without rebooting. It's a general Linux command, and they give you a few ideas, and the best idea is this one right here. They tell you this. Let me zoom in on that so you can read that. Run this command, he says, and it will cause your system to rescan for disks. Well, let's try it and let's see if it actually works, and let's try and figure out what in the world is doing. So I'm going to copy that, Control C, copy, and let's see if I can paste it. If I can't paste it, I'm going to have to come back and type it in. Let's see if the paste will work. I did a copy. Let's see if paste will work. I'm going to right click, paste. Yay, right click, paste worked. Let's do that. Notice I am root, I am super user, I have the # in my name, in my prompt. Let's hit enter and see what happens. And then we'll go back to the command and see why that worked. I hit enter. It doesn't complain. Now let's do a fdisk -L and see what comes out. Look at that. fdisk -L list my file systems now sees a device SDB. All because I did this command right here. And this is the explanation for that command. I copied it from a website that I thought would give me a good help. The website I found was, the question was, why does this work? It's used to cause your host to rescan for SCSI type files. Remember, that's the type of hard disk I added. The explanation here is, let's read the explanation. You are echoing a wildcard value of channel, target, and LUN unit number, and the operating system will rescan the device path. Now, and they point you to more explanations of these. Basically, you're sending this command to a special file that's being watched by the service in the system that watches this specific file. When this file here gets changed, it causes think of the disk manager software in your system to rescan for new drives. What we did was we added a T in front of that. Basically, what this command does is, for any host underneath this file path, sys class SCSI host / host star, like if there were host 0, 1, 2, 3, send to the scan full file in that folder 3 dashes. So we're basically modifying a file in the system, knowing that it will cause the system to rescan for hard drives. Now, talk about a mysterious incantation, what you call this sometimes in Linux, is this thing that echoes this string, dash, 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 piping it. Remember, the vertical line is send the output to this command. T means take that command and send it to multiple places, putting it inside the scan file inside of sys class SCSI host, host 0, host 1, whatever hosts there are. Just for fun, let's go back to our Linux and let's just see what files were there over here. Let's do a ls/sys/SCSI. Where were the files? sys/class/SCSI. sys/class/SCSI. Oops. sys/class SCSI. And what completions do I have? SCSI host. And let's see what's inside that folder. There's a host 0, host 1, and a host 2. And that's why the 3 dots, or the star there, means for every host folder you find, send 3 dashes to the scan file inside that folder. All to get my system to rescan for drives. But remember, and I can Control C if I don't want to actually run that command again. Remember, if that doesn't work, I can always reboot my system and hope that at boot up, it re-scans and sees my new drives that I've just created.
So each of these is a file or a disk?
It's a device file. Where are you at?
I did ls sys class SCSI host.
Those are all directories
Okay.
that somehow the system is using. I only have 3. I'm not sure why you have so many.
I have no idea.
And that's kind of a mystery too. What are you running? Are you running CentOS? You're running Ubuntu. So maybe Ubuntu keeps track of more files over there. That's a mystery. But remember this command here. The thing to remember about this is I'm echoing 3 dashes. I'm piping it, or I'm sending whatever output that comes to the program named T, which will basically redirect the output to multiple places. So basically, wherever there is a host something/scan in this folder, it will get its contents changed to 3 dashes. So what this means is apparently, if the contents of that scan file get changed, that triggers the system to rescan for new SCSI devices. And now I can do fdisk minus L, and my system sees the two new SCSI devices that I created in my system. But we're not done. This is the same as going to your disk manager in Windows, and it sees two new hard drives that you've just virtually added. We need to initialize those drives by giving them a partition to work with. Remember, in Windows we had to initialize the drive? Here's how we initialize a drive under Linux. We do, I'm root already, so I don't need to put a sudo in front of it. We do fdisk dev SDA. That first device, that new device I see, I need to do some formatting on it. So fdisk, the name of the device, I hit enter, and it brings me to the fdisk utility. M for help shows me that I can do lots of things here. What I want to do is create a new partition on that drive. So let's do N. Where's N? N means add a new partition. So I type N and hit return. And the type of partition I'm going to create is primary. Notice it shows the default is a P, so I can just hit enter. And I'm going to give a default number 1. I hit enter. I'm going to give it the default size, or starting location. And I'm going to give it the default ending location, which would be the entire drive that I just added. I'm making a single partition for that entire drive. Just like in Windows, you initialize a drive. And I hit enter. Now it's going to do this if when I type M, if when I click W, it will write this new partition table to the disk and exit. So now I'm going to type W for write the partition and exit. And now let's do the same command. Let's do fdisk dev SDA, and this time do a P for print what it sees. And look at that, it sees that partition that I just created. Now this fdisk program is very powerful. It lets me actually create multiple types of partitions. I can even ask it for a list of partitions that are available to create. I can type L, and it'll show me, oh, if you ever wanted, here's all the different types of partitions I could create for you. Under Windows, when you do a new volume, it gives you like 3 choices: FAT, NTFS, or I forget the third one. Here under Linux with fdisk, look at all the types of partitions you can create. Because Linux has gone through so many variations, it has made all types of partitions available to you. Look at all the types of partitions I could create, and I think NTFS is there somewhere. By default, it makes you an ext partition. So remember, I can do P to list my partition. There I have a Linux partition on that file, on that drive. I'm going to quit because I want to do the same thing on that second drive that I added. Remember, fdisk minus L shows me that I have a dev SDB. And I'm going to do the same thing, fdisk /dev /SDB. Meaning I'm going to modify the partition table on the SDB device detected by the fdisk program. And I'm going to do a new partition here as well with the letter N. Go with the default settings. And there I have a new partition. To create it, I'm going to do a W. It does the actual creation, and now fdisk minus L shows me dev SDB1 partition has been created on the device SDB. Dev SDA1 partition has been created on the device SDA. Okay, so we've initialized those 2 drives. We're not done yet. We need to actually make a file system available to us. And this is done with the MKFS program. And I think I just use the program and just tell it the device, dev SDB or SDA1. That is the partition. I want to make a new file system on that. Hit enter. It writes all the special information needed so that I can actually create files. If I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be able to do anything to my drive. Notice I've done it to the SDB device, right? I did MKFS. Oh, sorry, I did it to the dev SDA1 device. Now let's just see what happens. Now I need to actually access the drive. Oh man, that's why if I do a DF, I don't see those devices connected to my system. DF shows me what devices are connected. Here's how I now connect to those devices. I can't assign a drive letter because Linux doesn't use drive letters. Here's what I need to do. I need to do, since I'm root, I don't need to put sudo, mkdir, and I will need to make a mount point to connect to this drive. Now, sometimes people choose media. I'm going to choose MNT because it's already there in the system, and old school, we've been using this location for years. This is where we make locations to mount drives. And let's call this, what should I call it? Disk 7 gig. I can choose whatever name I want to give to that drive. I'm giving it the name disk 7 gig. I could call it spare 7 gig, I suppose. And I'm going to also do it for the other one. I'm going to do mkdir mnt disk 8 gig. So I've made empty directories. Pretty useless until I do this. I'm going to do mount dev SDA1. That means what you see on dev SDA1, that special partition, mount it to this mount point, disk 7 gig. That is telling the system now to access that drive, make it available at that folder location. Now if I do df, it shows me that dev SDA1 is available at, or is mounted on, this location. Now comes the moment of truth. Can I do this? Can I do touch or create an empty file, mnt disk 7 gig, and let's call it Manning was here. Let's see if it will let me create that folder. Actually, it's a file. It'll create a file. Look at that. It created a file. And let's do a ls mnt disk 7, and let's see what we have there. Yeah, there's that file. And if I do a ls-l, you'll see that that file got created by root. It has nothing in it, 0 size, but a file was created. The touch command is a quick way just to create a file with nothing in it. I could have echoed a message to it, but touch is another command useful just to show, yes, I have permissions on that drive. Let's try it with the SDB device. Let's try this. Let's do mount dev SDB1. Remember, we did create a partition SDB1 on the mount point mnt disk 8 gig. Let's see what it does. Uh-oh. It won't do that for me because, remember, I did not do an MKFS yet for the dev SDB1. So what do I have to do? I have to do this. I have to do MKFS, make the file system on dev SDB1. I think I could give it a parameters, but I just go with the default parameters. I hit enter. Now it's available for writing, and I can go and do the mount thing, and it's happy to mount the drive. And a DF shows me that that drive is mounted.
So mine, I'm trying to make the file system, but it says it's mounted and I can't do that.
Oh, if it's already mounted, then you don't need to do an MKFS.
But it's also not showing up when I do DF.
Oh, really?
I don't think.
Let's take a look. I
So
see your two devs over here. I see dev SDA2
I'm trying to
mounted
do
as
dev SDA3.
oh, dev SDA3 is mounted as /
The wrong one. Interesting. Okay. I have to do DF, I think, to show my disk.
So dev SDA3 is already in use, from what I can tell.
It must be
Do a fdisk minus L. Ooh, let's see what you got here for devs. Well, this is Ubuntu, so it's gonna give you a little different stuff here.
This one should
Dev SDA, I see you have partitions on it. You have your Linux file system. It's the boot partition.
FD0.
That's your floppy drive.
Okay.
There's a dev SDA. There's a dev. Is there any dev SDB? I don't see a dev SDB. What did you do to create? Did you actually add a drive? Let's take a look at your VMware. What do you have for drives? You have a 220 gig drives, and the one you just created is the second disk, I'm assuming. Okay.
Yeah, this is the new drive.
All right. So go back to fdisk minus L, and I'm looking for an SDB. I don't see any SDBs yet.
Can we put that as a search option? Like grep?
Well, you have pipe it to grep. Go ahead and do a dev, or do fdisk minus L. Sorry, fdisk space minus L. Okay. Hit enter, or actually pipe it to more. More. Okay, hit enter. All right. So we have loop. Hit spacebar. FD0, SDA. There's your partitions. Your system is on. Hit another spacebar. A bunch of loops. There is no SDB.
Should I refresh it?
Do that echo thing.
So, echo. I didn't see the command over here.
It's close to that, not quite the same. Echo. And send it to host star. Send it to T. After the greater than. After the greater than, put it. No, after the.
Sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
deleting from this.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
after the greater than, type
Uh-huh.
TEE for the command, and then instead of a 0, put a star. And now, yeah, hit enter. All right, now do an fdisk minus L, and look for a SDB again. Should be recognizing an SDB. SDA.
Okay.
See it in SDBs. I think you're going up in the output of the previous one.
Well, I need to look for one that has like 20 gigabytes maybe.
Yeah, it should be. That's another reason I give it a different size so I can tell it apart. There's your SDA still. I don't see an SDB. Here, do this. Do a ls space ls / dev / sd star. So it's only seeing an SDA. That's telling me Ubuntu is not recognizing it. The -- thing didn't work. Let's do the reboot and see if SDB shows up. Rather than try to hunt for why isn't showing up, this will tell us. Actually, let's do a restart from inside of there. Actually,
I should have done that.
it's
That's
safer to do that,
better,
but
yeah.
you're probably okay. All right, let's see how you're doing over there, Louisa. Able to get this working?
Uh-oh.
Excellent. So SDB1, way to go, good job. Now,
Unknown file system, entering rescue mode.
yeah, rebooting it from the restart, it shouldn't kill it, but it may cause it to go through a few gyrations of cleaning up because it got rebooted right in the middle of things. Well, now that we have that extra drive, DF shows me that I have SDA and SDB both are mounted. Let's go through sharing a folder from those drives just to practice our Samba configuration. Let's just say someone says I wanted to do a share from that new drive, and that drive we're gonna just share everything on that drive. So let's first of all we have to make a folder that's going to be the folder that Samba will share. So let's do mkdir mnt, that's the location of our drive that we're going to share from, and let's just call it shared. Let's make sure that it's public to everyone so they can write to it. So I'm going to chmod, making read, write, execute all true on that same location. MNC disk 7 gig shared. That makes permissions for everyone. So it's ls minus l of MNT disk 7. Oops. Actually, everything there. Let's see that shared is given read-write permission for everyone. That's what the chmod 700 did. Now what's the path? This is the path to that folder. And that's what I'm going to put in the Samba configuration now. So let's go to Samba. I'm going to use nano, the etc Samba file, and it's smb.conf, right? Down to the bottom of that file. Let's call it public, let's call it shared, I guess. Shared is the name of the share. I'm going to give it the path equals /mnt / disk 7 gig. Got to get all case sensitive, shared. And read only equals no, and browsable equals yes. I'm going to write that file and exit and see what it's going to do. It's going to share this, make this available for someone to map their network drive to it. I can hit exit or Control X to exit. And now we need to tell Samba to restart. Remember how we did that? We did systemctl restart, and it was SMB and NMB processes in curly braces rather than having to type it twice. Now let's see if we can map this shared folder from my Windows system right now. What do I need to know? I need to know his IP address. IP address. And there's the IP address. Let's see if I can map that drive. Bring up a file folder. Where is it? I need a folder window under Windows. Here we go. Folder. There we go. Let's try and map that drive to the new address and the new share called shared. So I'm going to right click, map network drive. The folder is 2 backslashes, the address of my server, 16.2. This would be yours to test your own, and the name of the shared. I'm going to use the Samba user that I created last time that has been given permission to connect with Samba. And I believe since I think I am mounting it now. Let's see what happens here. Oh, it does give me the request for login. Let's do username Samba user and password the 311 IoT. And it should connect if all is well. It's looking like it's not connecting. I'm wondering if he's not letting me in. I did restart Samba. Notice it's asking me again. Maybe I gave it the wrong password. Let's try it again. Samba user. Password was a 311 IoT. It looks like, I wonder if Samba, it was working, and I suspended my machine. I am wondering if maybe messing with that shared drive gave it a problem. It's not accessing it, telling me something is failing. I'm going to do a little troubleshooting to see. I'm just going to reboot my system, and here's how you should reboot your system, Sam. Just do shut down -R means reboot, and do it now. Shut down -R now is the best way to restart a system. Although you can do it here, it's better to do it from the system here. I'm going to do a reboot to see if my Samba problems go away. But I'll stop the recording there. That was a quick walkthrough. Just by going through that task, you learn a lot of things about how to mess with file system, how to